Greetings, everyone. This is the gardening snail of Livingston, California, just trying to keep the community informed and local government as honest as possible. Today's video will include a little bit about hiring a new city attorney, firing a city manager, denying a public hearing, losing a public works director, pay raises and stipends for city employees, and a few things some people might want forgotten. It's the City Council meeting agenda overview for December 7th, 2021. But before we get there, I want to make everyone aware of the City Council special meeting agenda that's taking place on the 7th at 6 p.m., where it's not going to be on YouTube, but you can phone in. And what they will be doing is there is conference with labor negotiator for Public Works and Park Unit, talk about some significant exposure to litigation, and public employment, city manager. Moving on to the open session, which begins at 7 p.m., notice there is a new call-in number, 520-525-8911, and this meeting will be streamed on YouTube. Public comments can be submitted by email at citycouncil@livingstoncity.com. Comments must be received by 2 p.m. on December 7th. Regular meeting agenda. After the call to order is citizen comments, where you usually get 3 minutes to talk about anything not already on the agenda. After citizens' comments is announcements and reports by city staff, city manager, city council members, and mayor. Notice that report by county supervisor is still off the agenda. On the consent calendar are 2 warrant registers, one of which would have been ratified during the November 16th City Council meeting had it not been canceled. 5 meeting minutes with only lists of comments and reports, but little to no actual details about what really happened. We'll fill in some of those blanks later on in this video. There are also 4 sets of memorandums of understanding between the employee bargaining groups and the city. Almost as if the council just wanted to pass these things without public discussion or having to answer any questions. While going through them myself, I found a couple of things you might be interested in. The percentage of wage increase and amounts of COVID-19 recovery money to be paid out, for example. We'll get to that later on as well. The renewal of copier lease and purchase and upgrade of the fire alarm both seem like straightforward consent agenda items. I could be wrong, but the water system improvement item and the amendment to the dispatch services contract with Gustine would be more of a discussion and action item than shoved into the consent calendar. And tacked on to the end of the agenda is a public hearing about 3 new housing units and a discussion about term limits for council members and mayor. I think there is a reason these 2 items are tacked onto the very end of the agenda, because from what I have observed over the last 14 years I've been council watching, by the time it gets to this point in a meeting, most of the members of the public that might have come to the meeting have already gone home. So now let's move on to some things you might want to know about and some things some people might want forgotten, starting off with the July 6th meeting minutes. On this day, there was an update on labor negotiations, again, with the bargaining groups. There was also a closed session item about labor negotiations with the city attorney. The water, garbage, and sewer rate discussion and vote was punted to the August 17th meeting, and the item about appointing a city attorney was not taken up at the time originally scheduled, but was held up until after the mayor pro tem arrived. The council voted 4-1 to appoint White Brenner LLP as the new city attorney. Citizen comment time was moved up to before announcements and reports by a 5-0 vote. On July 20th, 2021, there were more labor negotiations to be discussed in closed session and yet another performance appraisal of the city manager. There were multiple fireworks between the new city attorney and members of the public who came to speak on behalf of the city manager. I've been council watching since 2007, and I've never seen a city attorney practically take over part of a meeting in this way. As for that city manager performance appraisal, the city manager asked to have his performance appraisal done in public, stating he had nothing to worry about. But the brand new city attorney told the council to not allow that to happen. There were discussions about speed bumps and other traffic calming measures that took place at this meeting. The report out of closed session was only instruction was given to staff. But we wouldn't really know about what that meant until 3 days later at a special meeting held on Friday, July 23rd, 2021. First off, I don't know why the minutes say the meeting started a little after 7 when the agenda clearly said 5 p.m. Be that as it may, on that evening, the report out of closed session was the council voted 4-1 to fire the city manager. As a historical side note, not too long after this, not only did we lose a city manager, but we also ended up losing a public works director and a police chief. Moving on to August 17th, at this meeting, the discussion and vote on water, garbage, and sewer rate fees was punted to a future council meeting again, this time at the request of the new city attorney. A multi-unit housing complex and a new commercial building was also on the agenda. This is also when the agreement with the interim city manager was approved. Last on the list of minutes before we move on to the memorandum of understandings with the bargaining units is September 7th. There was more reporting on labor negotiations and more conferencing about exposure to litigation. And because we just recently lost our city public works director, the brand new interim city manager and city council decided this was the perfect time to change up the job description of public works director into that of a public services director. Who wouldn't need all those pesky state certificates for water and wastewater, to sign off on all those required reports the state requires on a regular basis? This was also the meeting at which the Livingston Youth Football asked for and was granted a fee waiver. Given recent discussions between the Recreation Commission and the City Council about recreation fees, I wonder how many fee waivers will be granted in the future. Moving on to the bargaining units, beginning with Livingston Clerical, the employees shall receive a base salary increase of 3%, along with an American Rescue Plan one-time stipend of $2,000. However, in the event that any other represented units receive a higher stipend amount, the clerical unit will be eligible to receive the highest ARP stipend benefit. Management and Confidential, an increase of 3% base salary, and an American Rescue Plan stipend of $6,000 per the ARP in two $3,000 payments. That looks like a higher value to me. Livingston Police Officers Association, also a 3% base salary adjustment plus a 4% increase for the Officer Assistant 2 position, along with an American Rescue Plan stipend totaling $6,000, also to be paid in two $3,000 payments. Livingston Supervisory Employees Association, no cost of living adjustment this time around. I'm thinking that has something to do with the big one they got the last time around. The American Rescue Plan stipend, also $6,000, and also to be issued in two $3,000 payments. A little bit about those water system improvements on the agenda. This project had to do with furnishing and installing water line between well number 14 and well number 16, expanding the existing arsenic removal treatment facilities, and constructing a new backwash tank, installing GAC filtration vessels and components for a centralized TCP treatment system, constructing chemical building expansion and other site and miscellaneous work at well number 16. The city will use TCP settlement funds to pay back the low-interest loan involved. And lastly, let's look where those 3 new housing units are going to be built. If you look at the bottom of the screen, where inside the red box, you see a little star, and that's where they're going to go. Photo credits. Any views or opinions I express on these videos are my own and do not represent the views or opinions of the City Council or City of Livingston. Unless, of course, I am using direct quotes or video from city council or other public meetings, then it's pretty obvious whose opinion is whose. Copies of source documentation available upon request.